She didn't look like a fighter. Wearing a pink beanie and a sweatshirt that read, "Still Got It," Laura Mendes walked onto the TV stage as if stepping into a dream she wasn't sure she belonged to. But the crowd didn't know what she had planned. The cameras panned from her pale smile to the talk show host, then to the guest sitting across from her, Sylvester Stallone. He smiled politely. He had no idea either. 3 weeks earlier, in a cramped oncology ward in East LA, Laura Mendes was sitting by the window, watching people pass by like she always did. Some were hurrying to work, others walking their dogs, a few pushing strollers. She imagined their lives, their conversations, the smell of their morning coffee. That's what cancer does. It turns the world into a silent movie where you're just the audience. She turned to the nurse. "Do you know who's going to be on the Dare Me show next month?" The nurse, Gina, glanced up from her chart. No clue. "Why?" "I heard Stallone is doing a guest spot." Gina squinted. "You mean Rocky Stallone?" Laura smiled. "Yeah, him." Gina grinned. "Let me guess. You had a crush?" "I had a poster over my bed for 10 years. They both laughed. But then Laura's expression changed. Just a flicker of something deeper. Something else. "I want to challenge him," she said. "To a date?" Gina teased. Laura shook her head. "To an arm wrestling match. On TV." Gina blinked. "Wait, you're serious?" Laura nodded. And just like that, the idea was born. That night, she told her daughter. "Are you insane?" Chloe said, half laughing, half horrified. "You haven't held a cup without trembling in weeks." "That's why it matters," Laura replied calmly. "Because I'm not supposed to." The producers thought it was a joke, but after reading Laura's letter, handwritten, full of fire and grace, they changed their minds. Something about it felt cinematic, poetic. And Stallone. He read it in silence backstage before his rehearsal. Then he looked up and simply said, "Booker." Back to the studio lights. Laura could feel the sweat forming beneath her beanie. Her heartbeat sounded like applause inside her ears. The host smiled wide for the cameras. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a surprise tonight." The crowd stirred. "This woman wrote us a letter that moved everyone on staff, and she has one request." Laura took the microphone, her voice trembling, but not breaking. "I'm here today because of a promise I made to myself when I started chemo. I said I wouldn't let this thing take everything from me." She turned to Stallone, who leaned forward, curious. "And I promised that if I ever got the chance, I'd challenge the strongest man I grew up watching, to remind myself that I still have strength left." The audience gasped. Some laughed nervously, others started clapping. Stallone stood up slowly, his trademark smirk softening into something almost reverent. "You sure about this?" he asked. Laura nodded. "I'm sure." The arm wrestling table appeared like magic. Producers pushed it in as dramatic music played. Lights dimmed. 2 stools. 1 dream. Laura sat down. Her fingers were thin, her grip unsure. She shook slightly, not from fear but from the side effects of treatment. Stallone gently took her hand. "You got this?" he whispered. She didn't answer, but her eyes said everything. Flashback. 2 months earlier, Laura was in the hospital bathroom, staring at her reflection. Half her hair gone, skin pale, eyelashes disappearing, a shadow of who she used to be. She had whispered to herself that day, "I still matter." Then she reached under the sink and pulled out a pair of dumbbells. Each one weighed 5 pounds. She started lifting. Every day. A little more. Not because she wanted to win, but because she wanted to feel her arm again. Claim her strength back, inch by inch. Back on stage, their hands locked. The host counted down. 3, 2, 1, go! Laura pushed. Stallone resisted, barely. The table creaked. The crowd roared. But no one was watching the match anymore. They were watching her face, the defiance, the tension, the smile creeping onto her lips. It was no longer about beating a Hollywood icon. It was about saying with her trembling arm, "I'm still here." And then, Stallone's hand moved back, just a little. Just enough. And the ref called it. Laura wins! The studio exploded. Stallone raised her hand high in the air like she was a champion boxer. She was crying. So was he. And in that moment, the whole country watched something rare. A legend letting himself lose, so a stranger could win something far greater. But not everything was as it seemed. Because later that night, backstage, as she sat catching her breath, Laura pulled her daughter aside. "I didn't win," she said softly. Chloe leaned in. "Of course you did." "No," Laura insisted, smiling. "He let me. I felt it. He let go." Chloe opened her mouth to argue, but Laura held up a finger. "That's not the point." She touched her daughter's hand, eyes shining. "He gave me that moment. But I'm the one who asked for it. That's the difference." Cut to black. Title card. Some victories are measured by courage, not outcome. Fade in. Stalin interview. Next day. A reporter asks, "Why'd you let her win?" Stallone stares for a second, then smiles. "Who said I let her?" The next morning, Laura's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. She didn't even know where her phone was. The hotel room was quiet, except for the city humming outside, and the sound of her daughter scrolling through TikTok. "Mom," Chloe said, barely lifting her eyes. "You're trending." Laura stirred under the sheets. "Trending what?" Chloe held up the phone like it was proof of resurrection. "You, Stallone, the arm wrestling, 28 million views in 8 hours." Laura blinked. "I guess I'm viral." "No, Mom, you're a hero." Cut to CNN, BBC, Good Morning America, BuzzFeed, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. Each headline echoed a different version of the same moment. A cancer patient challenges Sylvester Stallone and wins. Strength redefined. Real-life Rocky moment. But this time, she wore pink. Every network played the clip on loop. But the one that stood out the most was a video from a 17-year-old in Chicago. A soft-spoken girl in remission. Bald, no filters, sitting on her bed. She looked into the camera and whispered, "Last night I saw myself on TV, for the first time." Back in LA, Laura sat with a coffee she couldn't finish. Her hand trembled. "Do you feel okay?" Chloe asked. "I feel..." She paused. "Wrecked. But alive wrecked." There was a knock at the door. A hotel staff member handed her a letter. Thick paper, embossed seal, no return address. Chloe opened it. "It's from the White House." A week later, Laura was standing in front of the president, not really hearing anything he was saying. He was handing her a medal. "Courage in community," it read. She thought about her hospital room, the dumbbells, the beanie. She thought about the moment Stallone let her win. And suddenly, the medal felt heavier than her arm had ever been. But things changed after that. The spotlight has gravity. It pulls, and it warps. First came the offers, book deals, speaking tours. A possible documentary, invitations to talk shows, podcasts, gala dinners. Then came the headlines, some glowing, some sharp. Was it real? Did Stallone fake it? Laura Mendes, hero or staged symbol? In the middle of all of it, Laura tried to find quiet. She returned to her apartment. Same walls, same cat, same silence. But something was different now. Her daughter had moved in full-time. The fridge was full of gifts from strangers, and her voicemail had 94 unheard messages. She hit play. The voices blurred together. "Thank you. You gave me hope. My mom cried watching you." She cried too. But it wasn't relief, it was pressure. Because suddenly she was no longer just surviving cancer. She was representing everyone who ever had. She stopped training, she stopped writing. Some nights, she couldn't even speak. Gina, her nurse, came to visit. "You okay?" she asked. Laura didn't answer. Gina pulled out her phone and showed her a video of another patient doing push-ups. "She said you made her believe she could." Laura nodded slowly. "That's beautiful." But her eyes looked distant. Gina leaned in. "You don't have to save the world, Laura. I know. You just have to keep showing up." Then came the second letter. This time, not from the White House, from Stallone. Handwritten, neat, stoic. "Hey, champ. I meant what I said. You inspired me. I've been asked to be part of a new campaign for cancer awareness. But it doesn't feel right without you. They want a face. I told them I already saw the soul. Let me know. S." Laura stared at the letter for a long time. Then she picked up the phone. "Tell him I'm in," she said softly. A few weeks later, they met again. This time, not on TV. In a gym. Quiet. Empty. A punching bag swayed slightly in the corner. He was already there in sweats, wrapping his hands. "Didn't think you'd show," he said with a smile. She dropped her bag on the bench. "I thought you only lost once per person." He laughed. "You still got it." She smiled. They hugged. This time, longer. They started filming a campaign together. PSAs, behind-the-scenes footage, hospital visits. But as the cameras rolled, so did the whispers. Was it just PR? Was Stallone using her story? Was she becoming a symbol instead of a person? The question began to eat at her. One night after filming, she turned to him in the parking lot. "Do you ever wonder if we're just props now?" He lit a cigar, took a breath. "We're mirrors, Laura." "That's scarier." "What do you mean?" "People see what they need in us. Some see hope, some see lies, but none of it changes who we are." The next day, someone threw paint on her car. The word liar was smeared in red. She stared at it, speechless. That night, she didn't sleep. Instead, she stood in front of the mirror, stripped off her beanie, and stared at her bald head. She whispered again, "I still matter." She wrote a letter to herself the next morning. Not a journal. Not a speech. Just a letter. It said, "They don't get to tell me who I am. I am a fighter. Not because I beat anyone, but because I never stopped showing up. I don't need the world to believe me. I just need to believe me." And just like that, the girl with the beanie came back. Only this time she wore it like a crown. In a late-night interview, Stallone was asked about the match again. He finally said, "I didn't let her win. I gave her the choice." Pause. And she took it. The campaign was about to launch. Millions were watching. But no one knew what was coming. Not Laura, not Stallone, not the world. Because one morning, Laura collapsed, and everything changed. It was supposed to be a celebration. The campaign launch had been planned for weeks, an enormous event in downtown Los Angeles, with billboards, speeches, and a massive "Fight Like Her" banner stretched across the city skyline. Laura was set to give the keynote. Stallone would introduce her. Every seat was taken. But 10 minutes before she was scheduled to speak, Laura Mendes collapsed backstage. It happened fast. One moment she was sitting in a chair, touching up her makeup. The next, she was on the floor. Her head hit the carpet with a sickening sound. The medics rushed in. Chloe screamed. Stallone froze. She was conscious, but fading. And in that moment, she whispered just one thing. "Don't. Cancel." The hospital was bright, sterile, too loud. She hated it instantly. Machines beeped. Nurses moved fast. She'd been through this before, but this time felt different. This time, people were watching. Chloe stood at the end of the bed, arms crossed, face blank. "You should have told me you were pushing too hard." Laura didn't reply. Chloe's voice cracked. "You promised." Laura finally looked at her. "I promised I'd fight, and I did. But at what cost?" The diagnosis wasn't new, but it was worse. The cancer had spread, Her immune system was exhausted, her organs weaker. The doctors used words like aggressive and complicated. Stallone came the next day. He didn't bring flowers, just sat beside her and pulled out his phone. "I want to show you something." It was a video, clips of her hospital workouts, her match with him, her speech in DC, the girl on TikTok, fan messages. It ended with a quote. "Strength is asking for help. Courage is saying yes anyway." Laura watched in silence. Tears slipped quietly down her cheek. She handed the phone back. "I'm scared." "I know," he said. She looked at him. "Do you ever feel like you became someone you didn't ask to be?" Stallone leaned forward. "Every damn day." She stayed in the hospital for 2 weeks, missed the campaign tour, missed interviews, missed her own birthday. But something strange happened during that time. People kept writing to her, sending videos, letters, paintings, poems, chemo patients from Brazil, Italy, South Africa. And every single one of them said the same thing. "You reminded me I still have a fight left." One night, Laura asked for her dumbbells. The nurse said no, so Chloe snuck them in. 5 pounds, just like before. She started lifting again. 1 set, then 2. Some nurses joined her. They started calling it the Mendes round. One morning, Stallone showed up again, but this time he had a script. Not a letter, a movie script. He dropped it on her lap. "They want to make your story. You star as yourself." Laura blinked. "Wait, what?" He shrugged. "It's happening, with or without you." She opened the first page. Title, "Still Got It." She laughed, loud, for the first time in weeks. "Let me guess. You play yourself?" He smirked. "No, I play the nurse." But something was off. The deeper Laura read, the more she felt disconnected. The dialogue didn't sound like her. The story ended with the match, with the win, as if that was the point. She tossed the script aside. "That's not my ending." Later that night, she lay awake, watching the ceiling spin. She thought about all the people calling her a symbol. She thought about the car that had liar painted on it. She thought about the girl from Chicago. And she made a decision. The next morning, she asked for a camera crew. Cut to Laura sitting in a chair, no makeup, no beanie. The camera is close, honest, unforgiving. She begins. "Everyone keeps asking me how I beat Stallone. The truth is, I didn't. And that's okay, because this was never about beating anyone. It was about showing up, when no one expects you to, especially you." She pauses. Then, "I didn't fight cancer to prove anything. I fought it because I didn't want it to take my name. And even now, with everything spreading, I'm still here. That's what matters." She ends with a smile. Not forced, not performative, just real. The video explodes. Bigger than the match, bigger than the campaign. News anchors weep on air. Teenagers stitch her words into TikToks. Hospitals replay it in waiting rooms, and for the first time the narrative shifts. She's no longer the woman who beat Stallone. She's the woman who told the truth. But the story wasn't finished. Because after the video, Stallone calls her again, this time to ask for help. He'd been invited to speak at a cancer research gala in New York, but he wants her to go in his place. Laura hesitates. "I'm not ready," he replies. "You are, but you're scared." "That's different," she agrees, flies to New York, alone. Standing backstage at Lincoln Center, she clutches her notes. But then, panic. Her hands shake, her vision blurs. The lights feel too bright. She turns to leave, but hears a voice. "You still got it." It's Chloe, smiling, standing by the curtain. Laura walks onto the stage. Spotlight, silence. She begins. "You don't have to be strong to fight. You just have to show up, every day, even if your hands shake, even if your voice cracks." Mishi looks out, thousands watching. She finishes. "This is not a comeback story. This is a continue anyway story. And if you're watching this, maybe it's yours too." After the gala, Laura receives one more letter. It's not from Stallone. It's from the girl in Chicago. She's passed away. But the letter had been written a week before. I wanted to thank you in case I didn't get the chance. Because of you, I didn't feel like a patient. I felt like a person. You gave me that, so keep going. For both of us. Laura clutches the paper to her chest, and something inside her shifts. This fight was never about her. It was about all of them. The movie is greenlit. Laura is hesitant, but then comes the final request. They want to restage the arm wrestling match. Live, 1 year later. Same place, same table. Only this time, no scripts. Just the truth. She didn't expect to be nervous. It had been almost a year since the first match. A year since she'd stepped onto a stage and dared to challenge the man she once kept on a poster over her bed. But this was different. This time, there were no lights, no producers, no cue cards. Just her, and him, and a table. The event was set up in a quiet Los Angeles community center. Intimate, stripped down, intentional. Only a small audience, friends, survivors, doctors, nurses, a few journalists. No grand announcement, no commercial breaks, just 2 chairs, 2 people, a do-over. As she waited backstage, Chloe adjusted her mother's sleeve. You sure you want to do this? Laura smiled. No. They both laughed. But it's not about winning this time, she said. Chloe raised an eyebrow. Was it ever? Laura paused. Maybe not. The room was silent as she entered. No cheers, just warm smiles, soft nods. Stallone was already sitting at the table, gray hair a little longer now, eyes softer. He stood when she approached. Round 2, he said with a grin. She nodded. But this time, we both lose. He laughed. I like those odds. They sat, took each other's hands. The grip was familiar. So was the tension, but not from their arms, from their eyes. This wasn't about strength anymore. It was about truth. A moderator stood to the side. No time limit, no rules. Just a moment. Ready? They nodded. The moderator raised her hand. Begin. But neither moved. Not right away. Because something was happening. Everyone in the room could feel it. This was no rematch. It was a ritual, a reckoning. 2 souls facing the weight of what they'd carried, for themselves and for others. And then, they pushed. Softly at first, playfully. Then, with a little more force, their arms trembled, not from power but from emotion. And slowly, Laura's hand began to fall. This time Stallone didn't resist. He held her there, not letting her win, not forcing her to lose, just holding. Laura's eyes filled with tears. So did his, and she whispered, "This is enough." He nodded, and gently let go. Her hand touched the table, a soft thud, no cheers, just stillness. And then, applause, not wild, not loud, just honest. Afterward, they sat together, hands still touching. The moderator asked, "Any words you'd like to share?" Laura cleared her throat, then said, "You don't measure a person by the strength in their arms. You measure them by the weight they're willing to carry for others. And sometimes, just showing up is the victory." That night, the footage aired on just one platform, YouTube. No ads, no monetization. Just a simple title, The Rematch, 1 year later. It was viewed over 100 million times in 2 weeks. But that number didn't matter. What mattered were the messages, from parents, from children, from strangers who finally felt seen. Weeks later, Laura was back in her garden, wearing her pink beanie, pulling weeds, listening to birds. Chloe came out with 2 mugs of tea. "Stallone called," she said. "Oh yeah? They're naming a wing after you, at the hospital, the strength therapy center." Laura blinked. "What? Why?" Chloe smiled. "Because the dumbbells weren't about muscles, Mom. They were about reminding people they still had something left." Months passed. Seasons changed. Some days were hard, some days were harder. But Laura kept showing up, to treatments, to talks, to quiet dinners with her daughter, to herself. And then, one quiet morning, she didn't wake up. No drama, no speeches. Just peace. A soft exhale into something beyond pain. Cut to black title card. She didn't lose. She just let go. 1 year later, a small room in the hospital. Bright, warm. On the wall, a plaque. The Laura Mendes wing for fighters of all kinds. Chloe walks through, stopping to help a boy adjust his IV pole. In her hands, an envelope. She places it gently on a table beside a window. On the envelope, to the next one who forgets how strong they are. Inside, Laura's original letter to the show, the one that started it all. And a note in her handwriting, "You don't have to win, just show up, that's enough." She didn't look like a fighter, but maybe that's what a real one looks like. Thank you so much for watching. Your time means everything to us, and we hope this story moved you as much as it moved us. If it did, please consider leaving a comment, sharing the video, and subscribing to the channel, because powerful stories deserve to be heard. Until next time, stay kind, stay strong, and never underestimate the impact of one small act of courage.